Electrical instruments and measurements means the instruments which is used to measure current, voltage, power, energy, flux, frequency, etc. So these are all called electrical measuring instruments. The instruments which are used to measure these parameters are known as electrical measuring instruments. These instruments has been classified into different types. We can see one by one. Number one is the absolute instrument, which gives the value of the parameters under measurement in terms of the instrument. For example, you can take it as a galvanometer and relays current balance. And second type is the secondary instrument. It gives the value of parameters directly under measurement. For example, the voltmeter, which directly gives us the voltage. Similarly, thermometer, pressure gauge, etc. So when compared to absolute instruments and secondary instruments, absolute instruments are highly accurate than secondary instrument, as they contain less number of moving mechanical parts, which results in a lower operation of power consumption. And the third type is the analog instrument. So its output varies continuously with respect to time, while maintaining a constant relationship with the input. And fourth type is the deflecting instrument. It gives the value of parameters under measurement in terms of deflection of pointer away from zero position. That's what we are using in the lab. For example, you can see it as a permanent magnet moving coil meter. And each meter has its null deflection. Null deflection means instruments indicate the end of measurement with a zero deflection. So mainly this will be used in bridge circuit and potentiometer. Here, null deflecting instrument is highly inaccurate as compared to deflecting instrument, as their operational power consumption at zero deflection is zero. So when you compare the null deflection with the deflecting instrument, so while it has attained zero, no more movement will be there, hence the power consumption also will be zero. Hence you can say the null deflecting instrument is highly accurate as compared to deflecting instrument. And the next type is the indicating instrument. So it gives the instantaneous value of parameters under measurement. Example, ammeter, which gives the current value, voltmeter, which gives the voltage value, wattmeter, which gives the power value, and galvanometer. Similarly, meters which directly indicating gives the instantaneous value of parameters under measurement is known as indicating instrument. And integrating instrument, it gives a sum of the electrical parameter consumed over a specified period of time. So energy meter, which is going to give us the power with respect to time. And at last we have recording instrument, which is going to record the readings what we are observing. And few more key points regarding the exam point of view we have to keep it in mind is the permanent magnet moving coil type instruments are used only in DC voltage and current. So please keep this in mind. You may expect this type of questions, very rare. Induction type instruments are used only in AC. So induction means we will know it works under the principle of electromagnetic induction. So this is possible only in AC. And third point, an electrodynamometer type instrument can be used to measure DC as well as AC voltage. So these are the few key points you have to keep in mind. And the essential things which are needed for indicating instrument is, number one is the deflecting torque, which is proportional to quantity under measurement. The utility of this torque is to deflect the pointer away from zero position, that is moving away from zero position while measuring. And second one is the controlling torque. It is going to control the deflection by bringing the pointer to rest at steady state operation, that is steady state position. It also brings the pointer back to zero position when the parameter under measurement is removed. So if the control force is absent, then the pointer will be deflected beyond maximum scale. So a controlling torque is needed. And next one is a damping torque. This torque is responsible for damping out the oscillation of the pointer due to inertia. And regarding the main constructional details of an indicating instrument, moving system of indicating produces the deflecting torque. So various types of supports are needed for moving system, and those are: number one is a suspension, which is used in galvanometer class instrument, and is also used only in vertical held instrument. And next one is a torque suspension. It is used in permanent magnet moving coil type instrument, which require a low friction and high sensitivity. Pivot and jewel bearing type support. So weight of the moving system decides the sensitivity of the system. Hence, the torque to weight ratio of moving system should be high and equal to 0.1. And we have two types of control system. One is spring control and other is gravity control mechanism. So spring control mechanism, the control torque is given by k theta, where k is the spring constant and theta is the deflection angle. As the deflecting torque is directly proportional to length of the strip, at steady state position we have deflecting torque and controlling torque are equal. If both the torques are equal, we can say that it is a steady state. So in steady state, the deflection is directly proportional to length of strip L. So where L is the length of strip, B is the width of strip, T the thickness of strip, theta is the angle of deflection, E is the Young's modulus of the spring, and Tc is the control torque. Similarly, in gravity control mechanism also we have some equations to follow. Tc equal to k sin theta, again k is a constant. So at steady state we know the deflecting torque is equal to control torque. So at steady state the deflecting torque is directly proportional to the length of strip, and this length of strip L is directly proportional to deflection angle sin theta. So in this the key point to be noted, the damping torque is absent. If the damping torque is absent, then the pointer oscillates around the mean position. And similarly, fatigue in spring is avoided by annealing and aging. So these are the few key points, you may keep it in mind. So next one is a damping system, which is provided in the instrument, which helps the moving system of instrument to reach to the final position at the earliest. Similarly, eddy current damping is there. This mechanism is used in a strong operating field. For example, we can see the permanent magnet moving coil instrument. And air friction damping, so you would have learned in the theory, the same is here. Used when the operating field is weak, as used in moving iron and electrodynamometer type instrument. And fluid friction, this one will be a new one, you would have not learned in the theory part. So this is used in high voltage measurement, used in the vertically mounted instrument. So for example, you can say electrostatic type instrument. And ammeters, so we all know ammeter is an instrument used to measure the current. So always the ammeter must be connected in series with the load under test. Why we have to connect in series? The reason is when we insert an ammeter in the existing circuit, the total resistance of the circuit may get disturbed. So the current flowing in the circuit also get disturbed. Hence, the manufacturers will always produce the ammeters with less internal resistance such that the circuit resistance will not be disturbed. Since the ammeters are having very low internal resistance, So we should be very careful while connecting in the circuit. It should be always connected in series. Suppose if it is connected in parallel, it will act as a short circuit which may damage the whole meter. Similarly, we have a voltmeter to measure the potential difference across any 2 points. If an ammeter is to be connected only in series and voltmeter is quite opposite to it, we have to connect the voltmeter in parallel with the load. So you can see on the diagram, this is a sample diagram which shows an voltmeter should be always connected in parallel with the load. So in order to operate a voltmeter must draw some current from the circuit under test. So this is quite natural and this can lead to inaccurate results. The reason is it can interfere with the normal condition of the circuit. What has just happened while inserting an ammeter in the circuit, the same will happen when you connect a voltmeter in the circuit also. So we call this as a loading effect, and to minimize this loading effect, the operating current must be as small as possible. For this reason, the voltmeters are manufactured with a very high value of internal resistance. So from this we can come to a conclusion. Ammeters has very less resistance and should be connected in series with the circuit, and voltmeters have very high resistance to avoid the loading effect, and it should be connected in parallel with the load. And few points again to be noted. PMMC stands for Permanent Magnet Moving Coil, which can be employed only for DC circuits, that is DC measurement, and moving iron type, which can be used for both AC and DC. Electrodynamometer type also can be used for both AC and DC. So mainly the second point you can note, moving iron type for both AC and DC, but we almost use only for AC. And fourth point is electrothermic type for both AC and DC, and induction type only for AC measurement. So induction is possible only in AC. This is a well-known theory for us. Electrostatic type, you can use both AC and DC. Similarly, rectifier type, you can use both AC and DC because both AC and DC involves in it. And regarding the permanent magnet moving coil, the type of magnet used in it is two types, Alnico and Alcomax, and the field strength varies from 0.1 Weber per meter square to 1 Weber per meter square. And you can see the construction diagram of a permanent magnet moving coil, which has a permanent magnet. It has a north and south poles and a soft iron core with a spindle, and you can able to see the two control springs for control torque. So this is a simple construction diagram of a permanent magnet moving coil. So concentric magnetic construction is used to get a longer as well as angular movement of the pointer. So the angular movement should be very longer, means we have to go for concentric magnetic construction. So due to strong operating field of the permanent magnet, the eddy current damping mechanism is used to produce the damping torque in PMMC instrument. The control torque in PMMC is provided with spiral shaped hair type phosphor bronze spring. So actually it is not shown here, only the spring has been shown. You can see the lower control spring and upper control spring for the movement of the pointer. What type has been used is spiral shaped hair type phosphor bronze spring. And here are the torque equations. The deflecting torque is given by TD is equal to NBIA due to magnetic field, and the control torque is given by K theta. So at balance, that is at steady state TD is equal to TZ. So we can write theta is equal to K theta is equal to NBIA. So from that we can take the angle theta is equal to NBA into I by K. Here deflection angle is directly proportional to I. So we can introduce a constant NBA is equal to G. So finally we have theta is equal to GI by K. So where N stands for number of turns of moving coil, B equal to flux density of permanent magnet in Weber per meter square equal to area of the coil in meter square, and I is equal to current in amperes, where G is the displacement constant of the galvanometer. And the key points to be remembered here in PMMC is, due to strong operating torque at the permanent magnet, an eddy current damping is used to produce the damping torque. And regarding the advantages also, we have some key points. High torque to weight ratio, hence we are getting high accuracy as well as sensitivity. Magnetic shielding not required due to strong operating field, and the power consumed by PMMC instrument is around 25 to 200 microwatts. And regarding the disadvantages, the cost is high and this cannot be used for AC, and the current capacity is limited within 100 milliampere approximately. So this also you can expect in the exam. The current capacity of your permanent magnet moving coil is around 100 milliamperes. And regarding the sources of errors, the main thing is the aging effect of the permanent magnet because due to the decaying property, and it can be compensated by using a pre-edged magnet. And second error is due to aging effect of the spring. And third one is the temperature effect of the coil and the control spring. So whenever the current passes through a coil, the temperature increases. So these are the various sources of errors which is available in PMMC instruments. And if to calculate the ammeter shunt resistance value, again we have the direct formula. How much of resistance should be connected in a meter? So ISH RSH is equal to IM RM, where SH stands for shunt and M stands for meter. And we have one more related formula, I is equal to 1 plus RM by RSH into RM. And this can be written as total current I is equal to ISH plus IM. So finally we have the shunt resistance formula. RSH is equal to RM by M minus 1. So this is the formula to be kept in mind to find the shunt resistance of an ammeter. So you can able to see the basic ammeter circuit which has been shown here, where RSH is the shunt resistance which has been connected across the ammeter, and RM is the ammeter internal resistance, and M is known as multiplying factor for the shunt, which is given by I by IM, where I stands for the total current and IM stands for the meter current. Here you can see IM, sometimes it will be referred as IFS, full scale deflection current of the moment, where I stands for full scale current of the ammeter including the shunt. That is the total current which has been entering towards the ammeter. So these formulas will be helpful while solving the problems. And the key points to be remembered is, shunt should have a small and constant temperature coefficient. The materials used for the shunt in PMMC is manganene, as it gives small thermal EMF with copper. Constantan is used for the construction of shunt in AC ammeter. So these materials will have small as well as constant temperature coefficient. Now what will happen if the temperature of an ammeter increases? So again it is a well-known theory. As the temperature increases, the resistance of copper increases, and this result into a change of reading of the instrument. So as an engineer we have to avoid it. What we have to do to reduce the effect of temperature, a resistance having very small temperature coefficient made of manganese is connected in series with the coil, which is also known as swamping resistance, or you can say it is a swap resistance. So to reduce the effect of temperature, we should select a resistance such that which is made up of manganese connected in series with the coil, whose name is known as swamping resistance. So this also you can see in the diagram. An extra resistance RS which has been added along with the RM, so known as swamping resistance. Then how to make a meter as a multi-range meter? It is very simple. By using n number of shunts, we can able to make an ammeter as a multi-range ammeter. So the different shunt values has been given. The circuits, suppose if you assume the circuits have 3 shunts, RSH1, 2 and 3, which can be placed in parallel with the meter to give 3 different ranges, that is different currents I1 and I2 as well as I3. How to calculate those? We have the general formula RSH is equal to Rm by M minus 1. Since we are adding 3 different resistances, so for each resistance we have the substitute the formula RSH1 is equal to Rm by M1 minus 1, where M1 is given by I1 by Im, where I1 is the total current passing through shunt resistance 1. RSH is equal to Rm by M2 minus 1. Similarly, M2 is calculated by I2 by Im, and RSH3 is equal to Rm by M3 minus 1, where M3 is equal to I3 by Im. So you can able to visualize the circuit which has been used for multi-range ammeter. So if you would like to increase the ranges, you can add the resistance in shunt such that you can make the meter to activate as a multi-range ammeter. And the best solution for this multi-range ammeter is the universal or Aitken shunt method. The advantage of this method is it eliminates the possibility of meter being in the circuit without shunt. Again you can see the same formula, R1 is equal to Rf by M1 minus N. Okay, this is another method. So by using the Aitken method, you can eliminate the possibility of meter being in the circuit without shunt. And we have the measurement of power and energy. So let us move with the power. So on screen you can able to see the simple single phase AC circuit, so which has a power supply. So this will act as a power supply, and we are having an wattmeter to measure the power and a voltmeter. Sorry, we are having one voltmeter, one ammeter here. So here it has been known as ampere meter with internal resistance, and RV is a voltmeter with internal resistance RV, and RC will be acting as a load. So the electric power in a single phase AC circuit can be defined as, shortly we will know it as P is equal to VI. So with respect to time we can have P of t is equal to V of t into I of t, where P, V, I are instantaneous power as well as voltage and current. So this is the actual circuit, single phase AC circuit using ammeter, voltmeter and wattmeter. So you can see the ampere meter, which is an ammeter with an impedance ZA, and wattmeter having two coils. One is current coil named as ZAW, and pressure coil is also known as potential coil or voltage coil, which has been named as ZVW, and a voltmeter has been connected in parallel with the load named as ZV. Here the instantaneous power is given by P is equal to VI, the general formula. So you can take it as 2VI cos of omega t, since it is a product of V and T. So 2VI cos omega t into cos of omega t minus phi. Here the average power as a formula, P is equal to 1 by 2 integral 0 to t VI dt, from which we can get VI cos phi, where cos phi is the power factor and phi is the angle between voltage and current. So generally in three phase we have two type of connections. One is star connection and delta connection. Here balanced load means the meaning is in all the three phases the current is same. So again this is a basic thing. The star connection we have phase current is equal to line current, but regarding the voltage, the phase voltage is equal to line voltage divided by root 3. Similarly, in delta connection, the voltages will be same, phase voltages will be equal to line voltage, but the current will differ. Phase current is equal to IL by root 3. Another topic is three-phase power measurement using 2 wattmeter. So you can able to see the two different diagrams. So one is with first one is star connection and another one with delta connection. 2 wattmeters are connected across three phases. So we can discuss the formulas in this and we can move to the problems, possibility of problems in the exams. So for star connection, the power indicated by wattmeter 1, here P1, which has been given as VI cos phi is the general formula. Since the voltage has been calculated between two different phases taken as A and B, so it is a voltage difference between phase A and phase B. And since the wattmeter is connected in phase A, we can able to measure only the current in phase A, hence we are using IA. Cos phi is the angle difference between voltage and current in phase AB. Similarly, power indicated by wattmeter 2. Again go back to the circuit. So we have power indicated by wattmeter 2. This is your wattmeter 2, which is given by VCB IC cos phi. Here the wattmeter has been connected between phase C and B. So we are taking it as the voltage difference across C and B, and the current has been measured across C, hence through C, hence we are taking it as IC cos phi. So the total power can be calculated as the sum of two wattmeters, which has been taken as PT is equal to P1 plus P2. Now we have to calculate the phase difference. So the phase difference between VAB and VAN is always 30 degree. So this we can show through the diagram here. If the load is assumed to be inductive, the current is lagging behind the respective phase voltage phi. So this is quite natural in inductive circuit. So in inductive circuit, always the current is lagging the voltage by an angle phi. Hence we can take the phase difference as 30 plus phi. The phase difference between voltage and current. If it has been given as inductive, there will be a phase difference of 30 plus phi. So you can see in this diagram, there is a phase difference of 30 plus phi between the voltage and current. For example, if we take voltage between A and B, VAB, IA will be the current. So the phase difference, you can see the cursor, 30 plus phi. Similarly, between VCA and IC, here also it will be 30 plus phi. Similarly, between VBC, here you can see 30 plus phi. So for a balanced system, the magnitudes VAB, VBC is equal to VL. Then by using the phase difference, we have to frame the formula. Power indicated by wattmeter 1 is taken as VABIA cos of phi, that is angle difference between those two phases, cos of phi plus 30. And similarly, power indicated by wattmeter 2 is taken as, so VAB, VBC, IC cos of BC minus C. So our formula will act as VL, IL cos of phi minus 30. So these are the two differences between, the difference between wattmeter 1 and 2 reading. So phase 1, that is wattmeter 1 reading will be taken as VL, IL cos of phi plus 30. And wattmeter 2 reading will be taken as VL, IL cos of phi minus 30. So if we calculate the total power, the sum of two wattmeter readings, just substitute in the formula P1 plus P2, we have VL, IL cos of phi plus 30 plus VL, IL cos of phi minus 30. So finally we have VL, IL cos phi, the total power of the circuit. To find the power factor, again we are using the wattmeter reading. So to solve the power factor, consider P1 is equal to W1 and P2 is equal to W2. We have the formula. Tan phi is equal to root 3 into W1 minus W2 divided by W1 plus W2. So the power factor is given by the formula cos phi. So you can take phi as tan inverse of root 3 into W1 minus W2 divided by W1 plus W2. So substituted in the place of phi. So we have cos phi is equal to cos of tan inverse of root 3 W1 minus W2 divided by W1 plus W2. Okay, with these basic formulas, you can able to calculate the power consumed by the circuit using the watt to wattmeter methods. And another way to find the power factor is, so you can see the formula here. Actually the power factor is defined as the cosine angle between the voltage and current. In short, we can say cosine angle that lagging current. Now how to measure this? We have the simplest formula. Phi is equal to 360 into F into del T, where F is the frequency and del T is the change in time. So the frequency is a well-known thing. In Asia we are using around 50 Hertz, and other than Asian countries we are moving for 60 Hertz. And related to power factor, one more term is total harmonic distortion and distortion factor. So you can see the formula for both. A total harmonic distortion is equal to root of 1 by Kp square minus 1, where Kp is given, from this we can take Kp is equal to 1 by root of 1 plus THD square, where THD stands for total harmonic distortion. The formula for the power factor by means of total harmonic distortion with zero phase shift between voltage and current, fundamental component of current, is given by. So finally we can come to a conclusion. If the total harmonic distortion is known, we can calculate the power factor as Pf is equal to 1 by root of 1 plus total harmonic distortion Th is the whole square. And at last we have the formula to find the energy consumed by a load, simple formula. So the formula is a number of hours used by the load into number of days used into capacity of appliance expressed in watts the whole divided by 1000, which will give us the energy consumed in kilowatt hour. That kilowatt stands for the power consumed and hour is with respect to time. So the capacity should be divided by 1000 to convert the number of watts into number of kilowatts. This is a basic thing as an electrical engineer we should know. Okay, with this basic concept we can try to solve some problems which has been asked in the GATE exam. Okay, just note down the question, we can try to solve. 2 wattmeter method is used for measurement of power in a balanced 3-phase load supplied from a balanced 3-phase system. If one of the wattmeter reads half of the other, so within bracket it has been given as positive, so no negative values are there, then the power factor of the load is. Here flow is given balanced 3-phase, so we have the formula. How to find it? The main clue here is one of the wattmeters reads half of the other. So it means W2 is equal to W1 by 2. That is the clue we have got. So to find the power factor, we have the formula cos phi, where phi is equal to tan inverse of root 3 into W1 minus W2 divided by W1 plus W2. So W1 and W2 are given indirectly. So you can see on the screen the W1, W2 is half of W1. So you treat it as 1 by 2, take it as 0.5, substitute in the formula. So finally we have phi is equal to 29.9. So cos phi is equal to 0.86. So this will be answer. The option is fourth one, 0.866. So once the formula is known, you can easily solve the problem within the given time. Okay, next type of problem, slightly different. The load shown in the figure is applied by a 440 volt. Line to line value is given. 3-phase source RYB sequence. The load is balanced and inductive. So it is inductive, drawing 3436 volt ampere, which is known as apparent power. When the switch S is in position N, the 3 wattmeters W1, W2 and W3 read 577.35 watts each. If the switches S is moved to position Y, so you can see the cursor, already it was neutral. The question is, if the switch is moved to position Y, the readings of the wattmeters will be, we have to calculate in watts. So usually for a 3-phase 2 wattmeter method is enough. Here it has been given while it has been connected to neutral, all the 3 meters are reading 577.35 watts each. So what will happen? What will be the reading of the 3 wattmeters if the switch has been changed from neutral to position Y? So as per theory, when the switch has been changed to position Y, that particular phase will be receiving 0 value. So this is the concept. It will act as a short circuit. So with that concept we can move. In the question it has been given us the total real power. Each meter reads 577.35. So the total real power which has been consumed is 1732.05 watts. Just keep it. And the apparent power has been given as 3467 volt ampere. To find the power factor, we have the easiest formula, the real power divided by apparent power. So we can get 1732.05 divided by 3464 will give us 0.5 exactly. Once the power factor is known, we can able to find the angle. So cos phi is equal to 0.5. So phi is equal to cos inverse of 0.5. So we can find the phase angle is 60 degree. So once the switch has been moved from neutral to Y, when switch is moved to Y, the potential coil of second wattmeter gets shorted. So the reading of the wattmeter 2 will automatically become 0. Then to calculate the power of W1, already we have the formula for 2 wattmeter method. Since one of the wattmeter is short circuited, its reading will be 0. Now it will be acting as a 2 wattmeter method. So W1 first wattmeter, we have the formula VR by IR cos of 30 plus phi. The Hall reading, we have found the value as phi is equal to 60. Just substitute in the formula. W1 equal to VI cos of 30 plus phi. Phi equal to 60 here. So your final answer is 0. Similarly, we have W3 equal to VI cos 30, and here VL, IL we don't know. Instead of that we know the apparent power, just substituted. So VL, IL is equal to S by root 3, where S stands for apparent power. So S by root 3 cos 30. So if we substitute the value for cos 30, we will get S by 2. So third reading, wattmeter 3 reading will be S by 2, where S is given as 3464 in the question. So divided by 2, we get W3 equal to 1732 watts. So just check the option. Your fourth option will be the correct one. Already W2 is 0, and as per the calculation W1 is 0. So finally the wattmeter 3 will be reading 1732 watts. And next simplest question, an energy meter having meter constant of 1200 revolutions per kilowatt hour.